Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Resistance Roundtable for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2015. We want to welcome our friends in the chat room and to you, the listeners at home, and to our neighbors all around the world. You can find our live chat at maxresistance.com/chatroom, and you can also find us on fprnradio.com/listen live. Our shows are archived in MP3 format on fprnradio.com/maxresistance, and our listen live line for mobile users is 712-432-4365, provided by Audio Now. We have a new app to listen on your mobile devices, and you can download that at TuneIn and search for FPRN Radio. If you would like to join the discussion and ask questions to our panel and guests, please call 218-895-3818, and we'll post that during the chat in our chat. And you can contact us on Skype by adding FPRN Radio Live to your Skype contacts. We would also like to thank our sponsor, the Center of Health. Datura International offers you the Perfect Preppers First Aid Kit, the Family Physician Kit, a 10-bottle assortment of certified pure therapeutic grade essential oils to help you deal with whatever life throws at you. Perfect for your bug-out bags. And for all your essential oils and health products, please visit their online store at essentialnewparadigm.info. That's essentialnewparadigm.info by clicking on the Datura banner located at the bottom of the Max Resistance homepage. So we're going to begin our show. I'm going to give you a little bit of announcement first. We at Max Resistance have met with some resistance on the site, having problems with the database, and somehow WordPress went into a finagled mess of corruption. So we're rebuilding the site for you. Everything's protected. Our users, our followers, supporters, all protected. So we have no real explanation as to why it happened. It seemed to occur when we first announced that we were going to cover the Sandy Hook hearings, but we've been working really hard to repair it in the process to eliminate all the errors. So we have the hope that we will be up again soon. And I don't know, just, speaking of which, I have, that major problems as well as staying online myself. So if I go down during the show tonight, my co-host is 03, and I appreciate that he come on to help me out. And of course, there's always Brian. Brian who? No, I'm kidding, Brian. He's a big intricate part of our whole thing here. I wanted to make this announcement on my own behalf. I will be taking a break due to some family concerns that I need to address. Plus, as most of you know, each summer I do leave to teach or assist with a program to teach women to survive in the wild. I will be leaving this year a little bit early. They've had major fires up north and some damage and that, so we have things to fix. So I'll be leaving here by possibly around the end of the week and heading out. We have so much work to do this year. It's adding up. Also, with the caring for my family needs, you all know that my dad was hurt really bad. He had the halo taken off, but he's having troubles with bending and picking things up. So he has a business to run. We have bees to put out and, honey to harvest. So I'm sorry, but I probably won't be back until somewhere around August, possibly September, depending on our large garden in Saskatchewan. I have canning to do for my mom and dad as well, because that's their main staple. So Swan also says that he has some plans for the summer as well. So we hope to pick up again in full force during the fall season. We have things we have to take care of, and there's nothing we can do about it. Family kind of comes first sometimes. So we are leaving the show in Brian and 03's hands and wish them all the best during our absence. We encourage all of you to please show your support, as Max Resistance is not one person. It was built for all of us, all of you, and to have a platform to share. So please support and share the shows and give them all the help that they can and need and deserve. you listeners, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate everything that you do for us and all the sharing that you do. Tonight's guest is Ryan Lipinski, also known as FixedByDoc. He's very much into OffGrid, 100%. I want to give you a little bit again of his background because he has a first Bachelor of Science Community Health Education focused on health, nutrition, fitness, minor in EMS. He has a second Bachelor of Science Outdoor Recreation Leadership Management, both from Northern Michigan University. He also graduated from the Military Academy of Health and Sciences as a medical specialist with Fort Sam Houston, Texas. He's a combat medic in the Army, taught CERT teams and FEMA, Red Cross. He's a community emergency responder team member. He developed NERP, NREP, NERP, neighborhood risk education programs. He teaches all levels of first aid and wilderness first aid, CPR. He teaches bloodborne pathogen prevention, and he also teaches chains of infection models and how to break them, as well as wilderness survival. He was featured on a doubleheader of America Unplugged on the Sportsman Channel in season 1, episode 4. Our panel members tonight, we had to switch over the Hangout. We got scroogled, if you will, and the live button wouldn't show up to broadcast. So I've sent the link to Professor Doom, Rhonda Fairman, of course, Kate Slightison is going to join us a little bit further into the show to keep us on an update on the progress on tomorrow's hearing for Wolfgang Halbig. So let's begin. FixedByDoc, you're an amazing guy. First off, let's start off. You did a walk out your back door with your bug out pack, and you just went kind of on a walkabout. Is that right?
Yeah, I hiked about 55 miles on the Appalachian Trail, just my dog and I, and what we can carry in our backpack. We started out in Watauga Lake in Tennessee and hiked up towards Damascus, Virginia.
Mm-hmm. And how'd you do? How'd your progress go? What'd you take with you? How'd you do? How long were you gone? All these questions.
Yeah, we hiked. Normally, I hike 10 to 12 miles a day, sometimes 15 miles a day. But this time, I had my dog with me, and it was his first big trip. So we stuck about 8 to 9 miles a day. And our very first night, we encountered a bear and a couple of cubs. And I was very impressed with my dog. He saved the day. There was a couple other people that we had met along the trail who had decided to camp in the same area as us, and they didn't bear bag properly. And a bear bag is when you hang your food up in the tree. Well, they didn't do so properly. The cubs went up in the tree, broke the bear bags down. My dog went over and ran the cubs off, beat up the bear, and chased the bears out of the camp and kept them out of the camp for the rest of the night and saved everybody's food.
Nice.
So that was our first night. The rest of the time, it's a lot of that section of the mountains there. It's not as bad as the Georgia section, but there's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of climbing. So my dog carries all of his own gear. He has his own bug out kit, his backpacking hiking kit, specially made from Ray Allen. It's a very, very good quality gear for military and police canine dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had them make a nice molly webbing vest for my dog, and so he can carry all his own gear. And I use what's called a Dixon roller pack. You wear a harness. It has a pack frame that attaches to your waist, and then everything loads onto it and rolls on a wheel behind you, kind of like a polk sled, but one that you can use all year round. And so I used my military bivy sack, tarp, pretty much the same kind of stuff that you would use if you were to bug out. Normally, when I go backpacking and stuff, I would take a hammock, or a nice big tent or something like that. But this trip, I wanted to take the same kind of gear that I would use in a bug out situation, or the same type of gear that I would use if I was part of a militia group or something. And I
Right.
wanted to test it out because we're coming up on that timeline now where I believe that any moment crap can hit the fan, and we're going to need to be able to grab our gear and use it. So I'm using your camping gear is not necessarily the type of gear that you're going to use when crap hits the fan, because you're going to be in it long term. And camping gear is good for a week or two, maybe a couple of weeks. But when you start looking at months, you need different types of gear. That synthetic pair of pants may be fine for a backpacking trip, but
Mm-hmm.
what you really need is a pair of cargo pants. Good pair of like military style BDU pants or something. It doesn't necessarily have to be camouflage. They can be solid colors or whatever color you want these days. But you need different types of clothing, different types of gear for that long lasting value. And that the type that you can just toss in a thorny bush and pull it back out and not have to worry about it being ripped to shreds. So
Right.
that's the type of gear I took this time.
So this time you went kind of practical application, everything that you could critique yourself to specifically, make sure that you're ready and utilize it to go forward. And how long were you out there again? I'm sorry.
Um, about a week and a half this time.
Okay. And so on your videos, have you done a breakdown of, say, your dog's pack? Have you done a breakdown of your bug out bag? What you found that wasn't necessarily what you needed and what you kind of critiqued to where you absolutely need it? And is this available for people?
I have several videos. Like every single spring, I take this trip, and I'll do anywhere from 50 to 100 miles. Last spring, I did 84 miles, I think it was, through the Virginia mountains, the Shenandoahs. And every trip, I do a breakdown of everything I take, and in the video series. And
Hmm.
you can find it all on my YouTube channel on my playlist for my backpacking, camping, bushcraft playlist.
Perfect. And also your dog, do you have something that we can look at ourselves if we have to manufacture it ourselves, or, the possibility of where we can get supplies for our dogs for a trip like this?
Um, the I only If you have the money and the time to buy it, the two absolute best places to get is Roughwear and Ray Allen. Those are the two best places to get your gear for your dogs. If you want top quality stuff that's going to last a lifetime, you buy it once. You're going to spend a little bit of money. My dog's Molly vest cost $150, but it was custom fit specifically for my dog, and it will last him the rest of his life. Where if you go and get an outward hound or something like that, one of those brands, you're going to buy a new one every season. So there's the difference there. And after 4 or 5 seasons, then you've spent the same amount of money on one that's going to last a lifetime. So with rough wear, you get your shoes, and like your dog shoes, your rain jackets, your um, your some of the leashes and stuff like that that are real good quality for your dog. And then with the Ray Allen, you get your harnesses, your collars, and your control devices, your pouches and stuff like that for them.
Okay. Um, I guess sorry, I'm just going to interrupt for a minute. I guess the chat room had a hard time. The show wasn't starting. It kept saying stand by. So yeah, hopefully they've refreshed now. If you're catching up with us now, we did go over a couple announcements at the beginning. I encourage you to go back and listen to the announcements that we had. I won't be here, stuff like that. So, um, again, we're with FixedByDoc. He has a huge credential list. He's amazing at Bushmaster backcountry survival, and Yeah, we're just going over the fact of his gear, his bug out bags, the fact he went on a walkabout, I should say, and your dog. So we're looking at, let me ask you a question, and this is kind of a practical thing for most people is, what's it going to cost me to actually put together per person a real good bug out bag and maybe a real good bug out bag for my dog pet or I would look at a big dog just in the sense that you're going to have a pack animal then with you too, hey?
All right, well, I have a white shepherd. He weighs about 75 to 80 pounds. And then I have an Australian cattle dog, which weighs about 45 to 50 pounds, depending on time of year. In the wintertime, it weighs a little more for fattening him up for warmth. Uh, your dog, on average, can carry uh, about 1/3 of its weight. So my dog weighs 45 pounds. He can very easily carry 15 to 18 pounds with no trouble.
Right.
For this particular trip through the mountains, he was carrying 16.5 pounds in his pack. That's 4 days worth of food, one quart of water, and then his rain jacket, his shoes, his first aid kit, and stuff like that, and his bowls. So um, for everything that my dog carries for my Australian cattle dog, uh, it was good. Probably cost, if I were to add it all up, roughly $400.
Hmm.
But his gear is going to last him the rest of his life and
Right.
probably pass on to the next dog. And then that's about 400 $450 because it's of the larger dog size for my white shepherd because he's a little bit larger and extra large sizes cost a little bit more. So
Sure.
for me, my specific going with the bare minimum, but due to quality, my bug out gear is $2,000. But that doesn't mean you have to spend $2,000 on your gear.
Hmm.
The pants that I wear cost $185 per pant. The shirts that I wear are $25, $30 per shirt. You can get pants and shirts that are of close to the same quality as what I have. Like I have Mountain Hardware is the main brand wear of clothing that I use because it just lasts.
Right.
But
And you got reinforced leg and knees and
yes, but
yeah.
you can go to an Army surplus store and get military BDUs and not necessarily in camouflage. You can get solid colors: black, brown, tan, green, gray, blue. You can get them in solid colors too, and they come in almost every color you want. So, and those will last just as long as my Mountain Hardware or Granite Gear clothing will.
Hmm.
And they'll
Well, what
be used, but they'll be cheaper and more affordable.
Well, some of the tips that I use is that, yeah, we get like camel gear. When the guys go hunting, I reinforce the leg panel and the knees with maybe two, three other pieces of denim or green denim or khaki kind of material. And you can also do that on the seat of the pants and make your own design. And all it is just, I am not a sewer, people. I am not a sewer. I can do other things. I can't sew, but I can sew a straight line with a sewing machine. So straight line it is, and even if I have to do it in layers, all it is one block piece of material to reinforce the front of your legs where you're always wiping your hands or rubbing your knife on, or and your knees, of course, where you're always wearing them out with thin jeans and you're kneeling a lot or on logs, or and it protects you too against the brush and the burrs, hey?
Yeah. I, for one, grew up with a mother who was a master seamstress, so I can pretty much take any piece of material and turn it into almost anything I want except for a pair of gloves. Could never do gloves. Gloves and mittens kick my butt, but almost anything else I can do. But let's see. One thing I would like to suggest is that to stay away from military camouflage patterns, because unless you mix it up, if you get full one full uniform, military uniform, and you dress up like a full military uniform, then when crap hits the fan, people might mistake you for a military soldier. Then you're
Mm-hmm.
going to bring on issues that come along with that. Because in martial law, it's the military that's coming in and policing and taking away your rights, and there's going to be some of the militia groups and the oath taker groups and stuff that will be fighting the military groups in in a lot of cases in this scenario, and or even the gangs who, even if the military is coming in to defend you, the gangs and stuff will be fighting them. You don't want to be mistaken for a government military soldier. So that's why I try to focus on either solid color,
Mm-hmm.
where you can still get the same outfit and the same uniforms, but you can get them in solid colors, so you can differentiate between that military unit soldier and a civilian. Or if you want to go camouflage, get civilian camouflage, woodland camouflage. It works better in the United States than the military issue camo anyway. So
Mm-hmm. Right, and that's the other aspect of it too. Is my family, we wear a lot of camo, so call us rednecks, whatever. But we also break it up. We tans and greens, woodland kind of colors in solid pants or shirts, and sometimes just a military type, or I should say hunting type poncho camo thing is as well as because you don't want the military mistaking you for militia or whatever the other way. So you want to look like a civilian. We had Stefan Verstappen on, and like he said, you need to blend as well into the public realm if you have to cross towns or whatever the case may be. So always keep that in mind, looking for your gear that you want to blend in to the local people as much as you can as well. So I think, if you want to go hunter gear, yes, to an extent, just don't go all out. And besides, it's so bloody expensive. You can go to locally, I don't know if you guys have these kinds of stores, but they're kind of secondhand stores. Ours is called Value Village. We make it fancy and call it Value Village. And we shop at Value Village a lot to go and get, sturdy pants, things to cut up that you can reinforce gear with, including our backpacks. So those are just kind of practical application to a cheaper budget. So what else do you put into your, it's your clothing, it's your coats. You're talking about, you need to dress in layers.
yes.
And what else do you, go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Well,
cut you off.
I try to stick with solid colors, and then I have a camouflage net poncho. It's not going to keep you dry from anything, but it's a net that's shaped like a poncho that you can throw over. So no matter what you're wearing, you throw it over, and it's kind of like a multicam poncho, and it's just like the same style military netting that they throw over their vehicles and everything, but it's done as a poncho style. And so you throw that over you, or if you're going into town, you throw it over your gear when you hide it in the bushes. It's got so many uses. You set it up as a blind if you got to do the hunting, or do an ambush or something like that. It's got a million different purposes, but it compacts down to the size of a poncho. So you're talking like slightly bigger than a softball.
Right.
And I use a wood stove for my mess. My mess kit is I like the titanium mess kits, or if you're not using the titanium, you can't afford it, then I would go with stainless steel. Stay away from the aluminum stuff because you're going to burn through it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, MSR's seagull pots are perfect. You can do all kinds of baking. I've got a whole series on my YouTube channel of how to do what's called wet baking and dry baking, where I use the MSR seagull pots or the Vargo titanium pots, and little miniature bunt pans that fit inside the pots. And you can bake pretty much anything that you can do on your stove inside the house or in your oven inside the house. You can do on a little wood stove using twigs that you can find anywhere, whether you're in the city or out in the woods. You can do it uh, on a little wood stove if you got the little pieces of the kit that I have, and I have a video showing all the different pieces in the kit. And I actually talked to, while I was on my trip, and I stopped in Damascus for the Appalachian Trail Days, and I talked to Vargo, and they took pictures of my kit and wrote down all the pieces and parts, because I use all their Vargo wood stove and the Vargo alcohol stove, and I use the Vargo pots, and they were very interested in my kit. And I was talking to them, and they were talking about going back to their company and um, working on something similar to my setup.
Right. Well, myself, I kind of leave I take the pots and pans and I leave the stove behind, and I kind of do what is a Dakota hole. And what you do is, if you have a shovel, which you're going to have a shovel or something to dig with anyway, is we'll dig a hole and then around about as big as your arm, and you go around back up, and then you can put your fire in there, and it doesn't give off a bunch of smoke. So long as you stay with, good dry twigs and that, it doesn't give off as much smoke. Plus, it makes the ground being your oven, so it's really easy to do. You put your pot over top of that hole, and you have a breathing hole on the other side, because it's like a U almost. And at the very bottom, you build the wood into that. You can also take flour and salt, mix it together. You can take a steak, you can take a chicken, we call it caveman chicken,
Yeah.
and we just take salt and flour, pack it in all around the chicken or the meat, and you put it right into the fire, let it bake. It bakes in its own juices about an hour. You take a hammer, you crack it open, and all of your meat, or you can do meat, potatoes, your carrots, everything together like a TV dinner, and you can wrap it in tin foil and then pack it into that flour and salt together, and you've got your own Dutch oven that's right from scratch, eh?
Yeah, that's very good ideas. And one of the things I like about my Vargo wood stove is that it folds flat, smaller than the size of a pancake,
Hmm.
and it weighs like maybe an ounce and a half, 2 ounces, something like that. But also, it's great in places where you have, like, if you're in the city and you're on concrete, asphalt areas, parking garages, you're hiding out, you can make it in that. And so if you out in the woods, you can make your Dakota hole very easily. And
Hmm.
then if you're in the city and you're doing a city bug out, you could take a bean can or whatever, and if there's plenty of YouTube videos where you can make gasifier stoves where they don't smoke, they're smokeless and whatnot,
Right.
and those would work great too.
Yeah, that's the thing is even with the Dakota hole is, everybody might be cold, but you want to keep the smoke down. It's a good way to do it. You surround around the hole, you can make it pretty big. And so long as you don't put wet leaves or something like that to smolder a lot. But then again, you can, even if you put a grate over top of it, that cuts the smoke. But the point is that, you know, you still want to stay warm. You still want the comfort of drying your socks if your feet are wet. And, you still sometimes need that light. Don't make it too big, too big, just because of the fact that, when they call it a white man's fire, it's because we sit and pile the wood on. We all sit around, have drinks, and of course watch a fire. But you want to keep that low because you want to be able to glance out into the darkness and be able to see in the darkness. You're losing your night eyes
Yes.
if your fire's too big, correct?
Yes, and actually, I practice never turning on a flashlight.
Hmm.
Actually, the only time I would turn on a flashlight is if it's like in a first aid emergency. If you look back onto my video series from September 2014, when I go on a 8-day survival training out in Michigan with my friend Freedom for Kaz, and I'm also going out again this September. If it's something that I can't announce to you right now. If that doesn't take place, then I'll be going out with Freedom for Kaz again this year. What I do with him and did with him is went out every night with them, and I showed them how to literally walk for miles on end through the wilderness with no flashlights in the middle of the night. Now, if you do this every night, go outside in your town, your neighborhood, wherever it is you live, take a flashlight with you just in case you need it. But practice, take your dog. If you got a dog, go walk your dog. Practice walking your neighborhood without a flashlight. And
Mhm.
then once you get your neighborhood walking, because it's got street lights and cars and stuff, once you're down with your neighborhood, go to a park or somewhere where the street lights aren't around. Make sure it's a safe area, of course. I live
Mhm.
out 20 miles from town, and there are no street lights or anything where I live because I'm literally out in the boondocks and farm country. So when there's only two street lights, one's on my neighbor's property and one's a couple miles down the road. So
Mhm.
when night falls around here, there is no light. And so when I walk outside, it's pitch black, and the only light you have is your moon and stars. And over time, if you get in the habit of not using a flashlight, and over time, you'll develop the ability to see. You're not going to see bright like daylight at night, but over time, you will learn and develop the strength in your eyes to see at night well enough to get
Mhm.
around. And every year when I go out with last year when I went out with Freedom for Kaz, I started training him. We went out every night, and we would literally walk. I would literally walk him and the other people out there a mile out into the woods, turn around and come a mile back to predetermined destination points. Not just walking randomly out, but to a destination point that we predetermined that afternoon,
Mhm.
and go to that point and then turn around and come back without any flashlights or lights or anything. And it's a good habit to get into so that when crap hits the fan, your batteries die, you don't have a flashlight. Well, that's fine because you can see well enough in the dark because you've been training your eyes to do it. And it's not a superpower. It's something that anybody can do if they train for it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And you always have to be prepared for all these little things that might go wrong. And yeah, seeing in the dark is critical. You see so much around you. It's surprising. You'd be also surprised at the vegetation that's iridescent that lights up itself. It is surprising when you're in no moon. Uh, it's amazing when you're in a full moon. Of course, you can see everything, and it's just like daylight, basically. Just yeah, it's always good to be prepared in that regard. So, with your clothing, is there anything else? Like, of course, you always take mitts. Try and waterproof them. Um, you always take, extra socks. Oh my goodness, people, I can't say it enough. Take care of those feet. Keep them dry. It was the same. My dad said in the army is always keep your feet dry. Keep dry socks. Wrap them in plastic bags and make sure your feet are well taken care of. Your boots good. Make sure your footwear is good, and always just care for them and have the ointments that you need if you do get blisters or the bandages you need for that because your feet are the most important things to get you where you need to go.
This particular trip, for the first time, I tried the brand Darn Tough socks. And
Mhm.
I gotta admit, they lived up to their name. One, they caused no friction, no blisters. This is the first time I've ever walked 50 miles and not got a single blister. And my feet never overheated. They didn't blister. They didn't. I don't even think they barely sweat much. The socks obviously they sweated, but the socks wicked it away, kept them nice and dry and everything. Darn Tough socks cost $21 a pair, but when you buy them once, and as long as you don't lose them, if you ever ruin them, the company will replace them 100% for free. But I know people that have hiked the entirety of the Appalachian Trail and didn't walk a hole through these things, and they were really good for your feet. I personally take 3 outfits, one outfit for two, one outfit for sleeping in, and 2 outfits for hiking in. And you alternate your 2 daytime outfits for hiking in, every other day, and you have one outfit that you sleep in each night. So it gives your daytime outfit has a chance to dry out overnight before it goes into your pack, and then it has a chance to like air out and kind of get the
Oh,
smell out of it and stuff
right.
in your pack while you're wearing the other outfit. So, and I always carry 4 pairs of socks and 3 outfits. So, and then as far as there's a myth about everybody wants to take synthetic everything, and that's bad. And
Mhm.
you don't want synthetic everything. You do not want a synthetic hat, and you do not want synthetic towels, and you do not want a synthetic underwear. The main reason for synthetic underwear, to not wear synthetic underwear when you're backpacking and you do not have the ability to take a shower every day, is if
Mhm.
you cannot get a shower every day, that means you got bacteria building up on your body. Synthetics will not pull the bacteria away from your body. The whole purpose of synthetics is they're actually antibacterial. So that bacteria that builds up where your underwear is going to be at and where your socks are going to be at, that bacteria is going to build up and it's going to stay on your skin if you're wearing synthetic underwear. And that means you're going to get rashes, and those rashes are going to itch and burn. And then they're going to start pussing, and it's going to be nasty, something you're really going to hate, and you're not going to want to walk or go anywhere.
Right.
So what you want is either if you can handle they got some really nice smart wools, or they have some really nice cotton blends. And I highly suggest taking 3 pair of keeping along the lines of the 3 outfit rule, taking 3 pairs of cotton blend, which is like 80% cotton and 20% spandex or lycra or something of that type of material. So it's not a flappy boxer type material, but it's a snug fit, so that the cotton will absorb the bacteria that build up through the day. And then at the end of the day, when you change into your sleeping outfit, you can take those underwear and you can wash them. And
Mhm.
you can take some soapy water or whatever, or even sandy water. It doesn't necessarily have to be soapy water. You can get some water, some sand, and you can wash them in and get the bacteria off, because the cotton underwear will absorb the bacteria and take it off of your body.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about not going several. You don't have to worry about going several days without getting a shower and
Right.
getting those rashes.
Well, I know my skin's really sensitive, and yeah, synthetics on me don't do very well. So, I try and go like sports bras, which are cotton. Same with underwear and that. Socks, I tend to not like wool, and I don't think a lot of females like wool. But me personally, I tend to try and go a heavier cotton or layers of cotton. And, I'll take 6 pairs of socks rather than 3 pairs and double up if I have to with layers. But sometimes if it gets really, really cold, then I'll slip a pair of nylons onto my feet and into my cotton socks. And nylons do keep your feet warmer. So,
Yeah.
but that's about the only kind of synthetic or nylon, I should say, that I go with, other than my Under Armour for my long johns, which is more of a cotton kind of Terrell, I guess it is. And some of it also, I've tried out a pair of silver socks, and they worked really, really well at keeping my feet, not too sweaty, not too hot. I got a pair for my husband. He usually has really stinky feet, and they kept the stink. Yeah, he didn't have stinky feet, so that's nice to get in a sleeping bag that you don't have really smelly feet with. So when you're with somebody, but yeah, I like to go with the cottons. So I think it's all, you need to test these things out, find out what works best with you, how you're going to be able to replace them on the road, or make sure that you have enough with you. So
My
plus,
my wife has a couple of sports tops and some underwear that is a smart wool blend.
mhm,
That is, you can't. To me, I can't tell the difference between the cotton and her smart wool outfit. and they're really expensive. And I want to say it's like Rock Red or Red Rock or something like that. It's the brand name. I can't recall. She's in bed right now, but
Mhm.
they're an expensive brand, but they're good quality. They last a while. They come in variety of colors and stuff, and she really likes them. She's had them for a couple of years. They're starting to wear thin on her now, so I got to buy her some new ones. But
Mhm.
um, she has worn them one set of them for 12 days straight through a summer trip, and um, they never once smelled or had an issue or anything. She took it off occasionally, cleaned them up, put them back on.
Mhm.
Didn't have any problems with them, and they were great for her. Uh, Never itches or anything like that on her. But they are it's a smart wool blend that they have um, got it down to feeling like cotton. So
Well,
there.
yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out because most women hate wool, and yet wool is really really good at keeping you cool when it's really hot, or keeping you warm when it's cool. So I always pack my bug out bag or my backpack with a pair and a spare. So if you have extra room to carry extras of things, then you have the room. If not, a pair and a spare, and then like you said, you change for overnight. Hey.
Yeah, I always go with the rule of three for clothing: one on, two in the pack. And
Okay.
then when it comes with socks, one extra pair of socks. So I go with the rule of four for socks.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so getting on to headgear, you said no synthetics on headgear. So what would you recommend? Let me see, I have a coonskin cap, I have a beaver hat. That
I
sounds
go
funny.
in the wintertime, I'll go with a Polypro, which I know is a synthetic. I'll go with a Polypro, like kind of beanie style cap. But I go with the heavy duty cotton full brim hats,
Hmm.
and then I have a when I sleep at night, I have the uh, if you're familiar with the military sleep system, the sleeping bags and the bivy sacks, when you get them issued to you in the military, they come with this green skull cap that velcros across your chin, and that's made of cotton. I've got two of those, and that's the greatest thing in the world. I don't know why. I've never seen the military sleep system sold as a civilian set that comes with it, but in the military, I was issued two sleep systems, and both sleep systems came with that skull cap. And you can find them at the Army surplus store separately by themselves, but it's a cotton, and I use that for sleeping in. Then I take a Polypro, military issue Polypro head cap for the winter, and then in this summer and winter I use the heavy duty cotton full brim hat, military style. I guess some people call them Bowie hats. Or if I know I'm going into a really rainy, wet area, if I know it's going to be raining pretty much the entire time, then I will take a full brim leather hat.
Did I fall off? I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, 49. We hear you fine.
Oh, okay, so it's fixed by Doc who fell off a bit.
Hello?
Okay, there you are. Had a bad
No,
connection. Sorry.
no, it was you.
Oh, it was me. Okay. Um, Okay, somebody in chat had said, I'm sorry, you guys can hear me, right? Just let me know when you can't hear me. Um, your Media for Truth says, hi chat, doesn't cotton kill? I don't understand his
Okay. Cotton
question.
kills if you're wearing a full outfit of cotton, and you get soaking wet and you don't know what to do with it. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel saying the cotton doesn't kill, ignorance does. That is the title of the video, and anybody who thinks cotton kills, I want to direct them to that video. It's an older video. It's a couple of years old, so you'll have to scroll through the series to go find it. It's in the miscellaneous playlist. But the problem here is that people think that they can put on a synthetic outfit, or they can put on a wool outfit, or they can put on a cotton outfit, or whatever. The clothing is going to save them. It's not the clothing that saves you. It's knowledge, and it's knowledge that saves you. It's what you do with that clothing that saves you. Knowing that you're not going to go jump in that puddle, or if you fall in that lake, you get out, you strip yourself off, you start a fire, you keep moving. It's what you do when you get wet and cold that makes the difference. Cotton, there are cotton outfits nowadays that will dry just as fast as synthetics. I own several outfits of them. Synthetic pants, synthetic shirts, those are great. But when it comes to underwear, and you're going to be out where you cannot get a shower every day, then you want non-synthetic underwear. You want wool underwear or cotton underwear if you can't get a shower every day. And if you can get a shower every day, then go with the synthetics. But if you cannot, you need underwear, your socks, and your if you're a woman, bras. Those need to be non-synthetic so that they carry the bacteria away. And you need to have the set of 3 so that you can change them out. One for the nighttime when you sleep, and then 2 for the daytime that you can rotate through.
Yeah, it seems like we lost 49, and so I'm going to stir the topic to a different direction if you didn't mind. And do you do any aquaponics?
No, I don't really have the setup or the knowledge for aquaponics.
Well, that kind of blows the rest of my topics out of the water. 40.
I do a lot of manure growing. I actually recycle all of my humanure straight into my gardens, and my humanure gardens work better than any of my other gardens. If you want to go on that topic.
Now that's interesting. I would have to assume that everything that you're ingesting is all natural then.
As natural as I can get at the moment. I do still have to buy a lot of my foods because I'm just getting started. This year is my first year really getting down and growing and getting my own foods started. So I'm still having to go to the stores and get food from the grocery stores for the most part. But we do try to keep things as clean, as GMO free as possible when we can. And we don't take a bunch of medications or anything here. We don't have a lot of chemicals or anything like that we use in our house. Obviously we don't have city water. Our water comes straight from our spring and it's all filtered and stuff like that. So it's as clean as we could possibly get it, and it's treated through a composting method for nearly 24 months and processed before it ever reaches the garden.
That sounds like my problem is I don't know a whole lot about it. Can you explain to us, why that's a good thing?
Okay. Well, one thing that's probably going to gross everybody out that is listening is that you probably don't know of is that a large portion, I don't know exactly the percentage, but I do know that a huge portion of the foods that go to your grocery stores right now are actually fertilized with human manure. In the big market, they take the human manure waste from private entities, and they treat it until it becomes a white powder, and then you spread that white powder out onto the farm fields, onto the crops. The way I do it is I have a composting toilet. It's a waterless toilet. I produce 0 black water. And black water is water that comes out of a toilet that you would flush in a normal house. Gray water is anything that comes out of your sink and shower or your laundry machine, as long as you're not washing diapers and stuff like that in your laundry machine. So my toilet produces 0 black water, and that's where it all starts. You take a dump, you toss in a handful of sawdust, the finer the sawdust, the better. Some people use moss. I use sawdust. Then you close the lid. You use whatever toilet paper you want. All toilet paper breaks down very nicely. It takes about approximately 3 to 4 weeks for us to fill the tank. When the tank is full, we swap it out for an empty tank. The full tank will sit by itself for 30 days until the empty tank is full. When the new tank is full, then the old tank will then go into a compost tumbler. And the reason why it sits by itself, because over that 30-day period, it's going to sit out in the sunniest spot, and it's going to reach the maximum temperatures over 80 degrees or hotter over that 30-day period, and it's going to kill off all the pathogens that are inside of it. And it's a closed container. It has some holes in it for venting, but it's a closed container, so no rain or anything can get into it, and you keep it off the ground. And that way, it doesn't come in contact with anything, and all the pathogens that are inside of it over that 30-day are going to burn off in that temperature. So once that's done, then you add it to the compost tumbler. And what the compost tumbler does, it takes about 6 months to fill the tumbler. And over that 6-month period, you go out every couple of days and you spin the tumbler. The tumbler's job, its sole purpose, is to continuing the pathogen killing off process. Although everything that goes into the tumbler should have already died, but its main purpose is to tear everything up, mix everything up, and tear it up. And how we do that is we add yard debris into it, grass clippings, sticks, twigs, stuff like that. And as we spin the tumbler every couple of days, all the paper and all that kind of stuff gets torn up, and it no longer looks like human waste. Sorry, I had to shut the door. And then by the end of that 6-month period, or six loads that you put into it, you let it sit for 1 month without adding anything to it, because you got that one last load. The last load that goes in, you have 1 more month before you switch out the containers again inside the house. So it sits for that 7th month without anything being added to it. From the tumbler, at the end of the 7th month, it goes into a normal, like you would have a compost bin that just sits on the ground for your food compost waste and stuff. Well, you would take it from the tumbler and put it into a similar bin. You never mix your human manure with your regular food compost, though. You have separate bins and don't mix the compost. So you have the human manure compost tumbler gets dumped into the human manure compost bin, and what we do in that bin is we lay out about a foot to a foot and a half thick bed of bad hay. Our neighbor has a big hay field, and the bundles that fall apart or break or start to go bad before he can sell them, he gives to us for free. So we take those hay bales and we break them open and we put them in the bin, and we build like a big giant bird nest, and basically is what it is. This bin, the walls around the bin are greenhouse style. Picture 3 pallets to make 3 walls, and you line those pallets with plastic on the inside. And then you got a pallet floor, and then the pallet floor holds the hay up off the ground so that air can circulate in from outside and come up through the floor. So as that compost starts to heat up, that heat will rise and draw cool air in through the floor and out through the roof. But the pallet walls on the 3 sides create a greenhouse effect, letting light in and heat in, but trap the heat in. And then you throw a tarp over the top and over the front, and that traps all the heat in, and but still allows, by not having that front wall on it and just having a tarp over it, that allows the heat to stay in, but allows air circulation at the same time. And then you keep it covered for another 6 months. So by now you're 13 months into it. From the 6 months, from the very first load that went into the tumbler to the final 6th month of it being in the bin, you're 13 months into it. But you got to remember you're only 8 months into it from the last load that went into the tumbler. And so it sits there and it gets really nice and hot. You go out about once a week with a pitchfork and you turn it up and mix it up just like you would with a regular composter. At the end of that 6 months, then you go and you can take the tarp off. And at this point, you just let the rain hit it. You let whatever, because by this point it should look like dirt. You should be able to reach in, pick it up, and hold it in your hand. It's not going to smell like poop anymore. It's not going to smell like anything but dirt. It's going to look like dirt. There's not going to be infectious or anything, but you still can't plant in it yet. But at this point, you can take the tarp off and leave it open to the environment. Let the rain get in, whatever. You should have mushrooms and stuff growing in it all naturally. You'll probably find snakes and ants and other stuff living in it. We get snakes living in ours every year, and huge, big, large mushrooms growing in ours all the time.
Now, to be specific, what type of mushrooms?
I don't know. No, not the kind that you're gonna get high off or anything. I'm allergic to mushrooms, so I don't really get into that mushroom.
I was just curious what type of mushrooms grew. Yeah. If there was anything that was edible, if there was anything that could be used for something else, maybe.
They're the brown ones, the brown mushroom capped ones with the white underbelly that have all the little black spores that come off.
Yeah, that thing can't be good.
Okay.
It seems 49 has rejoined us. Welcome, 49.
Hi, sorry about that, you guys. Like I said, my internet connection really has a hard...
And
I have to restart everything.
We've also hit the top of the hour. So before I let 49 take back over, I want to remind everybody that you can join the discussion or ask a question to our panelists and guests by calling 218-895-3818, or you can contact us via Skype by adding the Skype ID FPRN Radio Live.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm lagging a bit, so I get a little bit of, it's slow. So I'll carry on as best I can. What was the topic?
We were talking about human manure and my human manure composting system. And
okay.
We're right at the end point. So we're at 13 months in from the first load, and we were 8 months in from the last load that was applied to it. At this point, you remove the tarp and let it just open to the environment. You give it a good mix. There should be mushrooms and snakes living in it at this point, if you live in the forest like I do. And I only say snakes because every time we open it up at this point, we got a family of snakes in it. They love it. So we mix it all up, and you just let it sit until the fall. If you set it up like we do, we put our last load in September, and then we don't touch it again until the following September. So it kind of mixes up, and then in the fall of the following year, we pull it out and we mix it 50-50 with horse manure in the fall, and so it sits basically another 12 months. And then we mix it 50-50 with the horse manure. We stick it into our raised bed gardens, and then it sits out there in raised bed gardens mixed and over winter. And then in the spring, it's roughly 24 months since the initial bucket went in, and by then it's all ready for planting and everything. So in the springtime, as soon as it thaws, you go out there with a pitchfork, you mix it all up, and then you let it sit for about a week or two, and then as soon as it's time for planting, you just go out there and you plop your seeds in, and you're good to go.
Nice.
And
And the snake, it's warm, hey?
it's usually pretty warm. And throughout the winter, we also put a thick layer of hay over the top of it to protect it from the snow, and that kind of acts as a blanket to keep it warm over winter too.
So most of these details they can find on your channel too, and I highly recommend that you guys look at FixedByDoc's channels. I mean, the array of information he has is phenomenal. Also, I wanted to move on. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but we are at the top of the hour. We're limited to 2 hours, so I wanted to move on to the information that you had. You had an opportunity to meet up with some of your militia friends. Is that right?
Yeah, I was. I'm a little disappointed. Well, I'm a lot disappointed with the Pennsylvania militia, and I'm no longer with them for various reasons. But to me, a constitutional militia is there to. Well, what would you think a constitutional militia is there to do?
Protect and uphold the Constitution.
Exactly. And I feel that the Pennsylvania Constitution, or sorry, the Pennsylvania militia is no longer, their goals are no longer to do that. Some of you, if you keep up with the militia groups, may have heard that a few months ago, the PA militia had a falling out with its chain of command, and they broke up into different groups, and then they reassembled, and there was just a big mess. And now that they've gotten back together, they started kicking people out that speak out. Like if Max Resistance was part of the militia group, they would have been kicked out. Anybody that speaks out on behalf of the Constitution now and voices their view on the Constitution has been getting kicked out of the Pennsylvania militia group. And
so wait a minute. Let me get this straight. What's happening if they say that they're only going to protect specific freedoms or whatever it is that they're going to detail and decide upon, rather than kind of have a, if you will, democratic vote or an ideal of what their principal foundation is? If you don't agree with what they decide to do, then you're out.
Pretty much. It's no longer a constitutional militia. It's more of a you're going to do it as the new chain of command says, or you're out. And instead of what the old chain of command was like, we follow the Constitution or you're out. And it's not that way anymore. So I left.
Okay, so what you're telling us is that they've kind of redesigned the chain of command. The chain of command is how are they deciding on this new chain of command? What are the principles behind it, and what are you disagreeing with?
Well, I can't speak on how the new chain of command is working. I was a major, but I was, since this new chain of command kind of took over, I stopped receiving emails, I stopped receiving updates, I stopped receiving any notification whatsoever from the group. And the reason for that is because for those of you who do watch my channel, I'm very outspoken. Whenever I see something going on that's anti-constitutional, I am one of the first to step up and speak out about it in my area. And one of the big things is that there's a lot of police, state police and local police, that are involved in the Pennsylvania State Militia now. And there are a lot of friends and family of the police that are involved in the Pennsylvania Militia now. And when it comes down to, if you notice all the stuff that's going on the internet lately, on social media, everybody's reporting on all the police on civilian violence, where police are misusing their authority or abusing their authority on people, such as the car incident where there was a high-speed chase, and then the car pulls over, it backfires, so they put 137 bullets into the car. No guns or weapons were found. There was another case out in California where the guy was speeding a couple of miles over the speed limit because he was running late for a dinner party, and he had a what do you call it, pressure cooker in his back seat with his part of the meal for the potluck dinner he was going to. They took the pressure cooker out and they blew it up and then proceeded to give him every ticket in the book that they could. You know, abuse of power. You can go through YouTube and see all the other incidences where they keep shooting people. If you have a gun, you're more likely to survive a one-on-one police encounter than if you don't have a gun. If you don't have a gun, your chances are you're going to get shot and killed if you're a black person or a minority in like New York or something like that.
Right. So as an insider on the militia where you held a major position, you're telling me that basically what's happening is that they've infiltrated into the militia, the police and their mindset, which we're all well aware of what their mindsets are lately, that they've basically just infiltrated, taken over, and reorganized some militias. We
In
can't
Pennsylvania, yes. In Pennsylvania, okay. Absolutely so. I cannot speak for the other militia groups. I still hold a lot of respect for the Michigan militia and the California militia groups. Those two, I have friends in those two groups, and as far as I know, they're still doing well. However, in the Pennsylvania one, since this new chain of command and change up in what's going on in the state, they pretty much have backed down on a lot of issues and have stopped standing up for a lot of things. They've changed a lot of policies. They started switching over to more of a militarized police style outfits and everything. So they are looking when you see the Pennsylvania militia group, you will not be able to tell the difference between them and the United States military. You're not going to be able to tell the difference.
So the question, the militia now, they don't actually get their uniforms and equipment directly from the military. You have to supply your own, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm kind of hearing from you is that the police are utilizing their police equipment for the militia activity.
The police officers that I know of that are in the militia group are doing so, yes.
See, and that's totally against regulations, but there again, I mean, that comes into your core group. Those that were in your core group, have most of them basically, you know, distanced themselves from the militia?
No, actually, they're still in. And they haven't distanced themselves from me, but they've stayed in the group and they're kind of keeping their mouth shut. They're not stepping up on either side now. They're staying with the group for whatever their personal reasons are, and I don't really want to speak on their behalf. Some of them are probably staying in for the reasons to keep tabs on them, and some of them are staying in probably because they like the idea that they have, when crap hits the fan, they've got somewhere to go.
Right. Well, it's interesting information, that's for sure. What's your take recently on the military trains and equipment moving across the country?
Well, everybody's stuck on this Jade Helm taking place later in the month of June into July. But that's not true. Jade Helm is a national event, and if you've ever known several different groups to get together and train together from all over the country without doing, you have try to think of the easiest way to explain this. It's like you have Group A in Texas, Group B in California, Group C in Virginia. And these three groups have never met. but you expect them to all show up on a specific date and be able to work together and know and know how the entire puzzle fits together, right? Which would be with the Jade Helm thing. Is everybody thinks that Jade Helm starts in the middle of June, and it's going to go on for a couple of months. Well, that's not true. The official national training starts where all the units come together. But right now, and for the last several months, 6 months to 9 months at least, each individual unit that is assigned to take place in Jade Helm has been training on their own base in their own states for the last 6 to 9 months. They go and they train up for their piece of the puzzle, right? Because they got to shape their piece of the puzzle. They got to know what their piece of the puzzle is and how to effectively do it and perform it, so that when they get to Jade Helm, they don't look stupid. And I know this as my personal experience as being a combat medic in the Army. Whenever we would go to the National Training Center, and the National Training Center at Fort Irwin, California, is where multiple units from all over the country would go and meet, and they would do things just like Jade Helm, and they would train in the desert just before they go overseas. Only when you go to the National Training Center, it's set up to just like the cities and stuff that you would find in the Middle East, not cities and stuff that you would find here in the United States. Right. And before you go there, you spend 2, 3, or 4 training cycles on your base, training up and what you're going to do for when you get to the National Training Center. When you get to the National Training Center, you meet up with the other units that you'll be working with when you go overseas to Afghanistan, Kuwait, wherever it is you're going to be, Iraq, whatever. And you train together with what you learn, your piece of the puzzle, to learn with the with that group. And then when so that's what Jade Helm is doing right now. Right now, everybody says Jade Helm hasn't even started yet. What are you talking about? Jade Helm started a year ago, 9 months at least, with the individual units in Florida, where they had, I don't remember who it was, but somebody posted a video of the troops performing training missions in Florida, and they said that this is Jade Helm. And everybody said, no, that's not Jade Helm. Jade Helm doesn't start for several months. It was Jade Helm. That particular Special Forces unit is one of the main units participating in Jade Helm. And what they were doing in Florida is training for their piece of the puzzle. So when they get to Jade Helm, they don't look stupid. They look like they know what they're doing. They look like they know their job, their part. And everybody, all the units involved have been doing this for several months now. They're going to go out and they're going to spend 30 to 45 days in what's called field training exercises, FTXs. And I did this for 4 years in every training op that I did. And these are live fire, live maneuver training ops where they're using real bullets, real the actual equipment and everything that they do. And I know they use the real bullets and stuff in the live fire and whatnot, because that is how I personally got injured in a howitzer strike out in California in my last national train op. That's how I became a 60% service-connected disabled Army veteran, because the building I was in got blown up in a howitzer strike in one of these live fire, live ammunition training missions. And that's what they do. So those who think that this Jade Helm thing is nothing to worry about, think again, because they're taking it out of Fort Irwin, out of the desert, out of the National Training Center, and they're putting these live fire, live military vehicle training missions right into the heart of your neighborhood. And then they're moving forward. And 90, as a combat medic, I can give you a very good idea of how many people get injured in the United States military during live fire trainings, during basic training, and during combat. 10% of the soldiers get injured in combat. Out of that 10%, 50% of them are self-inflicted or suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's 10%, 10 to 15% get injured during basic training. Everybody else that gets injured in the military, the remaining 75 to 80%, get injured in live fire training incidences, just like I did, just like what's going to take place in Jade Helm, just like what takes place in the National Training Center. That's where all the injuries, accidents, and deaths take place. Not in wartime, not in overseas, not in basic training, but in these active duty, live fire training scenarios. And now they're going to be placed right in your middle of your backyard.
Now, a lot of people are saying in the fact that these are built and that they look like a lot of urban areas, and they're specifically North American urban areas. They're not, say, Afghani urban type areas. That means to me that they're bringing this home, that the battleground is going to be local. And I don't want to start scare tactics or anything like that, but it just makes common sense to me that if they're building these training facilities that mimic our local neighborhoods or our government buildings or whatever the case may be, that just it doesn't look like Adobe huts or what it would look like, say, in Afghanistan. It's more North American type urban areas. So am I wrong in assuming that this is what they're going to do, is this is going to be a part of martial law, or that this is their training?
Well, right now, I don't think it's Jade Helm is going. Jade Helm isn't going to be where martial law breaks out. Not for the government's not going to cause Jade Helm to be the cause of martial law this time. Jade Helm is to get people used to the idea of military policing the civilian population. It's here to get you used to seeing troops on the street. Here to get you used to seeing troops knocking on your door, having them in your backyard, seeing the military vehicles moving through town. It's get you used to the idea of living in a combat zone slowly and get you comfortable to it.
Incremental, I don't know, what would you call it? Kind of incrementally just assimilating you to the fact that this is a commonplace. Right. So, okay, so let's move on a little bit on Jade Helm. Now, looking at Texas, Texas had decided not to participate in the Jade Helm maneuvers. Is that correct?
Yes, and
how does that
you had, what was his, Dr. Doom is his name?
Professor Doom.
Yep. Professor Doom. He had a video, I gave you the link earlier, where he's talking about Texas and he named some cities and stuff like that. If you go to Professor Doom's channel and you scroll down to, it's a little ways down, you got to click the bottom of the screen and scroll down for a little while, but you'll start seeing him where he's talking about where he starts referencing Jade Helm in Texas, and basically he gets in and talks about where Jade Helm, Texas kicks Jade Helm out, right? And then right after that, like Jade Helm acknowledges Texas as a terrorist state, right? Jade Helm, because Texas has, over the years, for as long as I've been alive, Texas has wanted to separate from the federal government. Has wanted to become its own country in real life, not in some training scenario. And all the states that are taking place in Jade Helm, that have Jade Helm lists as a terrorist state, has at one point in time filed to secede from the government and filed for secession. And the Jade Helm has listed those states as terrorist states. Now you got Texas hasn't had any weather issues. I mean, they had some droughts and they had their normal yearly problems with weather and whatnot. And I know because I spent a lot of years in the military in Texas with Fort Hood and Fort Sam Houston and a couple other places. Plus, I lived there as a child and stuff, so I'm really familiar with Texas weather and the extreme changes and stuff that it has. But it's never had anything like this. As soon as they came on, and the congressman and the governor came in and said, no, we're not having Jade Helm here, then all of a sudden they have this like 1,000-year storm that comes in and dumps 35 trillion gallons of rain on them, which is enough rainwater to cover the entire state in 8 inches of water. But it's not covering the entire state, it's covering the counties and towns and cities that Jade Helm was supposed to take effect in, which is mass flooding.
Right. So, in other words, you participate or you pay the price. It seems
exactly.
like.
And Texas is not the only state that this is happening to. There are other places that refused, and similar things are happening to them, just not this extreme. It just happens to be Texas is the one that's being flooded in the news right now because of the extreme that is taking place.
Right. I think we had a couple other links as well that we were looking at. I'm sorry, when I dropped out, I lost the links on the side, Brian. I put them in the Google Docs. Sorry, just giving a little bit of direction. There were other videos that have kind of gone to the same idea as the fact that, and websites who have delved into it, started checking into it a bit more and finding that it's peculiar that those specific locations are the ones that seem to be paying the price for not participating. So, you know, be it conspiracy theory or not, it leaves it pretty suspicious in the fact that it's happening in those areas. Have you got any more to add on the Jade Helm portion regarding the weather? What are...
Well, regarding the weather, not necessarily, but my wife brought up a good point earlier today. What happened Sunday? What was the big event that happened on Sunday? The Patriot Act expired, or at least great portions of it. So what does the country need, or what does the government need to happen in the country right now? What happens prior to what happened to cause them to create the Patriot Act in the first place?
So they have to stage
a false flag.
One of the biggest false flags ever. Now, every single time they build one of these things, one of these Patriot Act type things, like the U.S. Freedom Act or whatever they're calling it, to take its place, they have to have some kind of big ass, sorry for cursing, false flag. So Patriot Act just failed. You know, they thanks to whoever, you know, they were able to hold it off long enough for it to expire. The only reason why they would allow it to ever expire in the first place is that they had something big coming up. Now we got Jade Helm right around the corner. We got these mass floodings going on in Texas right now. We have all of this the police on minority violence going on. And we have a lot of this race baiting with the news is doing all this race baiting, trying to create a race war between whites and minorities. So it's a melting pot for a big false flag to happen, and they got to have a big one, like the Twin Towers 9/11 thing. They've got to have a big one because it's going to require a big one to put into effect another Patriot Act type bill. And if you look back, not long ago, in the beginning of the year, there was the hacked emails that came out saying that the government was expecting a nuclear explosion either in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or Chicago, and then there was the also the floodgates of all the suspected ISIS terrorists. They're supposed to have like 10 cells in America or something like that. Because they opened up the floodgates for all the illegal aliens to come in. So, you know, they've been setting the stage for a huge false flag to happen this year. And it's just when you think of it like, well, you've got Jade Helm going on, you've got the race baiting going on, and you've got these major, once in a millennium natural disaster going on in one of the biggest states that has been wanting to succeed from the government.
Not to mention gang war
And
setups.
the gang wars and the motorcycle wars and stuff going on right now, then you can't help but think it's not just conspiracy theory. There's
Right.
something is in the works. Something if I had to guess, I say keep your eyes out for around September. You know,
A lot of people are
August,
pointing to
September.
September. Yeah, a lot of people are pointing to September. Things seem to be that they'd be heating up around that area. You know what bothers me is a lot of people have brought up the I pet goat thing, and if you notice all through I pet goat, it's snowing, and I keep thinking of fall or winter, and even on the African scene when they're untying the ribbon from the little pregnant child, is that it's snowing. And it keeps bothering me in that fact of, is this going to occur during the winter months? You know, are they looking at the fact that, you know, you can't be prepared? Most people wouldn't survive in the cold, so you're forced to, you know, stay in your homes or put up with what is that they dish out us, just due to the fact that it's so cold. Many of us wouldn't survive even if we wanted to bug out.
Which is one of the biggest reasons why I'm a big fan of not bugging out. If you live out in farm country, if you live in the city, you don't really have a choice. You're gonna have to leave. But if you live out in farm country, if you live outside, you know, beyond the suburbs, you have the ability if you got 2 or more acres, then, and you've got water on your property, then you've got the ability to bug in. And what you need to do is work with your neighbors, build community, and get together with like-minded people and start working out a plan. The best person on YouTube that I can send you to would be Southern Prepper 1. And you would go through his channel and watch every single video he posts if you want to learn about how to build community and how to prep for community, because he's got it down pat.
Well, and I believe that the whole concept of there's strength in numbers, and you need to stick with people that think alike. And you know, not to say that there aren't people who don't know. There's those who are going to want to join you, you know, just based on the fact that you kind of seem to have your crap together. And then there are those who just, of course, want to leave or steal your stuff, or, you know, so there's always got to be, you can't close the doors to everybody because it's a learning curve. So, you know, pull them out, see if they have something to offer. Everybody needs to basically, you know, assist or help or have something to put on the table. And be it that they don't have food, they might have essential skill. So it's so important, I think, that you have an essential skill, just in maybe you can sew, maybe you know how to make something, you know how to grow, you know how to collect seeds. Everything is important, even to the fact of teaching children or, you know, caring for those that are elderly. You know, there's always techniques or tools or something that you have to offer. So make sure that you're a contributing part and that somebody would take you in if shit hits the fan, excuse the language, just in a sense that you can be viable to that community and that you want to assist them, and so that you back. Is that correct?
Yeah. One thing I would like to add is if you're going to start training and prepping and preparing, one of the first things I would do is do not take a normal everyday first aid class. Take a wilderness first aid training, because wilderness first aid training is going to give you the training for when help is not there. When you can't pick up the phone and call 911, that's the type of training you want. Because when crap hits the fan, you can't pick up the phone and call 911.
Right.
So wilderness first aid training, they're going to teach you what to do when help is delayed. So when they're going to teach you how to treat yourself when you're 2 or 3 hours away from the hospital, or 2 or 3 days lost in the woods while waiting for the help to come. And that is the best first aid training that you can get. It's usually a 2 or 3 day course.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot better training. It teaches you how to use your, not just use a standard everyday first aid kit, but how to use, if you get a good quality class, it'll teach you how to use everyday equipment, from your hiking poles to your regular camping gear to stuff you find in an average house to use as first aid supplies, from fixing everything from a traction splint because you broke your femur to or your long bone, whatever you want to call it, to depending on what type of who you get your training from, to getting sutures and stuff. So
Right.
a standard first aid class is going to teach you to, a regular first aid, they're going to teach you to stop the bleeding, call 911, don't splint unless you absolutely have to move, and wait for the ambulance to arrive. Basically that. And they're going to teach you CPR. That's not going to do you any good when crap hits the fan.
Right. Right. One more question I have for you that I think is really important that needs to be addressed. We do have SOS on Skype. He's slated and is going to come on in a few minutes to give us an update on the hearings for tomorrow. I do want to address one question before we move on to him. What would you do? What do you expect will happen if these troops move into our neighborhoods? What would you expect would happen? What do you expect people will end up doing? You know,
Okay.
I think that's my biggest question.
I expect a troop movement coming into each neighborhood. Well, picture this: a convoy. You're going to have a series of vehicles. You're going to have 2 deuce-and-a-half or 5 tons. You're going to have 2 to 3 Humvees. One Humvee is going to be your command vehicle. One Humvee is going to be your NCOs. Your command vehicles being your officers. One's going to be your NCOs, and then you're going to have your patrols, 1 to 2 vehicles of your patrols, which are basically your guards. In between these vehicles, you're going to have your deuce-and-a-half or your 5-ton, which is your big trucks which carry your personnel. One of those is going to be the vehicle that they take what they confiscate, such as going door to door to collect your weapons. And the other one is going to be used for those who resist but they don't shoot. And so when crap hits the fan and they go into martial law, and they're going to come in, they're going to roll in, and these units are going to be assigned, and they'll probably have a local police escort because the local police know the area. And what's going to happen is they'll come through and they'll police the neighborhood. They'll go door to door. Remember the so-called wellness checks that I think it was South Carolina or North Carolina, one of the two, was doing a couple of months ago.
Right.
And the military was going door to door doing wellness checks. That was the practice run for them. They had the same vehicles set up and everything. We used to practice stuff like that when I was in the military. And it's practice for going door to door for when martial law hits, so that if they encounter a violent combatant, the order is to shoot to kill if they have a firearm or a weapon that they refuse to release. If they come in and they kick open the door and they, because of the threat of the military force coming in, they submit and they release their weapons and stuff, then they just get detained. If the military comes knocking and they gracefully let them in, then they get to stay put. They'll collect any, if they gracefully hand over without any violence, without any threat or anything like that, they knock on your door and you hand over everything and don't cause a scene, you get to stay put. They put all your gear into one of the deuce-and-a-halves and you stay put. But if you cause a scene, you get arrested and taken off to one of the concentration camps. There's over 400 of them in the United States, and some of them are in Canada. I used to work for FEMA training the CERT teams that will run them. Trained 27 teams personally.
So,
That,
my other question here, I don't mean to interrupt. We're just coming up on the half hour here, Mark. I want to say to you, there is no possibility, I believe, that we have enough troops in North America to absolutely lock down every city. So is this going to be randomly controlled cities and then take the country? Because there's never been a nation as big as North America, like United States and Canada, being taken at one time, ever.
what you will,
So, you know,
yeah. What you're
to know
gonna
all
see.
of us,
Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Okay. What you're gonna see is an event happen overseas that requires a large military movement to be sent overseas. Obama or whatever president is in office at the time will say there's this event taking place, ISIS or whatever, and we need to move all of our troops over there. Then what they're going to do is all of the non-compliant soldiers who are still on active duty or National Guard, they're going to send over there. And by non-compliant are the ones who have not sworn an oath to this new government. And they're going to try to send them all over there in a mass movement, leaving only the soldiers in the United States who are willing to back the federal government. And then they will fill full of propaganda and false information the ones that are overseas, so they don't have to worry about them. Then you'll see a movement of all of a sudden you'll see a bunch of on the news they'll start claiming that riots are breaking out in the bigger cities, the more troubling cities, the ones that they're worried about the most. They'll try to raise up um, in the news and the communication networks. You'll hear that there's big issues in these certain major cities, the ones they think are going to be most trouble in them. Then they're going to say, well, we don't have enough resources to handle it, so they call in the UN. The UN troops will come in and back it up. And then what's going to happen is, in that time period too, whatever troops are left here, they'll take like California's National Guard, put them in Texas. Texas, put them in Alaska. Alaska, put them in Virginia. And they'll mix it all up like that because they don't want you anywhere near the city or state that you live in or train in, because they don't want you having any second thoughts about shooting somebody that you know. So they're going to take you as far away. They're going to take the National Guard troops as far away from the people they know and put you in a city where they don't know after they've caused a big riot and whatnot going on in that city. Then the National Guard comes in, or sorry, the United Nations comes in, and the United Nations and whatnot, they shoot a different style rifle, different style ammunition, the 223s and stuff. And then NATO shoots a 5.56. United Nations shoot 223, or I might have the round backwards, but they shoot a different round than our military soldiers do. And if you notice, a couple of years ago, we stockpiled like 2 billion rounds of ammo and the guns and everything. Why would we stockpile 2 billion rounds of 223 when our soldiers shoot 5.56? They're not the same round. You can't put a 5.56 in a 223 barrel. You can put a 223 in a 5.56 barrel, but why do it when you could just buy a 5.56 round? They cost the same. So because the UN or the troops that they're bringing in from outside, that's what they shoot. So that's what they're stockpiling for.
I see. So that they'll have, wow. This is all very, very heavy information. Again, I want to encourage everybody to sub or check out FixedByDoc. He outlines a lot of this, as well as Kaz's channel, which is, let me see, what is the channel? Isn't that awful? I always just click on my Wild by Kaz. Sorry.
Freedom for Kaz,
and,
or Kaz versus Wild.
Kaz versus Wild. Yeah, sorry. Freedom for Kaz or Kaz versus Wild. Thank you so much. Both of the channels kind of keep up with what's going on. you know, we can't get excited. We need to be prepared. We need to understand what's going to happen if it does happen and be prepared for that. You know, personally, I mean, we've gone out and buried thousands and thousands of pieces of iron out in the yard, and good luck in finding where the firearms of it. So, as far as the rest of it goes, they can come take what they want to, have something prepared, stockpile in different places. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, and of course, have the right gear if you need to move. Um, Other than that, I'm going to say, is there anything else that you would like to share? I wanted to bring on Slight Sin. He's going to give us an update. He's on the phone with us. But I wanted to give you one more chance. Did you have anything else? Do you have a website or anything that we can look forward to for you, Doc?
No, it's just basically FixedByDoc OffGrid on YouTube. I stay away from the Facebook stuff, and my Twitter account is strictly for harassing the NSA and TSA and all those other things.
Okay. And like I said, yeah, just keep in touch and, of course, keep us updated. And we will post articles as we can in regard to the information you give us. I don't know, FPRN, can you bring Slight Sin in? Is he on?
Can you guys
Hi,
hear me?
Sin. Yeah, hi. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad.
First of all, you didn't have any, did you have any questions for our guest?
No, we were into the show on the ride home. It was pretty damn good. Pretty accurate statements, and I hope it doesn't come to that one day. But the last half there, but no, excellent points, and I appreciate you having me on and having him on at the same time.
Absolutely. We tried to get you into the Hangout. Of course, we're getting Scroogle left, right, and center. A lot of our guests couldn't get in. It seems like they're being led to an empty room where we aren't, and yet you're getting the link that we are. So can you give us an update on morning with the hearing for tomorrow morning?
Yes, it was an interesting day from what I heard. I had to step out on a few errands, but as for tomorrow morning, the hearing is scheduled to kick off at 9:30. Leading into that, I got to give you a little back brief here as to what happened this evening. If anybody didn't know, the Board of Education met in Newtown this evening, and I'm talking a full packed room. From what I understand, Fox 61 News had a set of reporters down there, which teamed up with the camera crew that Wolf had sent down, and Wolf got a brief 3 minutes in front of the Board of Education. From what I understand, it was the most awkward silence after he got done speaking, because he pretty much confronted them on their board policy regarding the Super Bowl kids. Now, most people don't understand. Everybody's like, oh, why is he going on about the Super Bowl kids? Well, the point is if anybody of logical sense goes into the meetings of the Newtown Board of Education, not one time is it mentioned that any of these kids even went to the Super Bowl. Any permission slips, chaperones, superintendent, nothing. Nothing in the minutes, nothing in attachments. That's why the town does not have them. And when Wolf apparently confronted them this evening about that, it was the most awkward silence from what I understand, because I can almost guarantee you between the Fox reporters who actually had him on camera and on mic as well, they were leaving there with scratching their heads as to, wait a second here. You guys didn't even recognize the kids that sang at the Super Bowl? So I can guarantee you some of the parents there that even live in the town had no idea what was going on. And the same set of Fox 61 reporters are going to be at the hearing as well tomorrow, based on the testimony and stuff that was discussed outside of the Board of Education tonight.
So you're saying that permission slips were never given or granted to the Board of Education in regard to the Super Bowl attendance?
That is what I'm saying, yes.
So we have no idea who these children are, how to identify who they were, who the parents were, nothing.
Nothing.
Well, that's pretty suspicious in my mind.
I'd say so. I mean, if I was looking for news clips earlier yesterday just to be like, okay, wait a second here. If he goes down and actually speaks his mind and asks the question which he's been railroaded for so long, it's found nowheres. Anytime between the time of January 1st, 2013, up and through March, there's nothing in the minutes regarding Super Bowl or even the Board of Education even allowing that type of field trip. So it, in my mind, as my own personal opinion, it sparks the question here, well, then who went to the Super Bowl if the minutes themselves say that there was no agreed session by the superintendent at that time to allow that type of field trip over state lines, mind you? I think that's why the awkward silence happened tonight, and from what I understand, the guys that were in there videotaping, they did get the board panel members' faces as two of them dipped into their hands like, oh shit.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, okay. So another question, Slideson, another question is there a possibility of pulling as a testimonial witness the actual choir production manager? She was the one who seemingly got hacked for presenting the children as being Sandy Hook Choir, yet they were the choir. But if you recall in the headlines, she had gotten hacked for apparently claiming that this was the Sandy Hook Choir or something. Other Sandy Hook people are going to know a little bit more about it in that regard. But you know, still there has to be, even within her choir, I guess, does she have a business? She took the kids through the business. You know, can you pull her as a witness into who are these children? Did the parents sign releases? Anything like that?
Up until right now, I do not have an answer for you on that questions particularly. And I can't even really comment on it. I know Wolf tomorrow night is going to comment as to who they were calling for witnesses tomorrow, but I don't think that was ever even brought up recently regarding that. That is actually a really, really good point. Yeah, I don't have an answer for you on that one particularly.
All right. So tomorrow, you did inform us that you won't be streaming. Is that correct?
Yes, I might not be there, honestly, at all, depending on just a few other situations that have arose. But I do know the camera crew is up here. Thank you again to also John B. Wells' crew. I just got to throw that out. These guys are supporting the background with the all the behind the scenes stuff and the events themselves that we've been talking about over the past few months here. So they have a crew on the ground. Again, tomorrow Fox 61 will be there with a set of reporters. We're pretty impressed tonight, based not only on the statements but what Wolf gave the board. And it looks like it's going to be a good hearing tomorrow.
Right, but it doesn't seem to be that anybody's going to be live streaming. The CTN isn't going to live stream. They have other commitments across the street at the building,
Yes.
at the state building. So they have that closing out for session. So they're going to cover that. They decided not to cover the hearing. So it seems like nobody's going to be streaming live. However, I do want to announce that we found somebody who is going to be in attendance and is willing to stream live. So we're going to be up. I'm going to be up at 6 a.m. to be here for you guys for 9:30 your time, Eastern Standard Time, when the hearing begins. And we're going to see about putting this forward. We wanted to do it through, of course, streaming and through Skype. We can't do it. Excuse me, we can't do it this time because the individual who's doing it has a real hard time with technology, but they're taking. So we're going to try and do it in a hangout. So tomorrow morning we are scheduled with a hangout, and we are going to do our very best to bring you the hearing live here on Max Resistance. So we'll just kind of keep an update. Slight, if you are there, I would hope that you would report in to us if you can. and
I will try
we're
it.
gonna hit and miss
Wow.
tomorrow, guys.
Montana
So
took money from a farmer under that. Oh, whoops.
Doom
Oh.
finally joined us, and hi Doom, and we covered an awful lot of your material without you unless Doom could make it.
You know what? I
So
apologize. I apologize. They took a video down of mine. I put up 5 videos today in a series, and they hit the 5th one. It had some pretty interesting stuff in it, and so I had to take it down and fix it and put it back up. And I totally just ran over time trying to fix that. And I was like, oh man, and I forgot. So I ran over here as quick as I could.
I understand. I appreciate you showing up, but yeah, we kind of mowed over the information with FixedByDoc, and he was citing a lot of your information regarding Jade Helm. We
Oh,
did
good.
cover a lot of the topic. What we're going over right now is tomorrow's hearing. Slideson won't be able to stream it. We do have somebody else who's going to stream it. We're going to be here live for everybody and do our best. Swan went out of town. Not sure if he will be back or not. So everybody kind of has to put up with me hosting the show, if you don't mind, and we'll muddle through it and at least get you guys the information. I am not as eloquent as the rest, like Kate Slate and, of course, Tyranny News Network, Tony Mead, Odin Rock, others who are so intricate at who's who in the public realm of SEC. I covered more of the financial part of it. So I can't remember everybody's names, but I invite everybody to join us here. We're going to work around it. Doom, if you want to participate or assist, you're more than welcome if you've got the time in the morning. But we are going to start broadcasting tomorrow morning on a Hangout at 9:30 a.m. as soon as we can, or earlier, just to give you an update while we get into 9 a.m. Okay, we're starting at 9 a.m. The Hangout producer says. So that's the law. And I hope others will join me. Right, 9 a.m.
No,
That's
no,
what?
I'm sorry, 9 a.m. Eastern.
Standard Time.
That's right, Eastern.
Right, right. I also wanted to say Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole sent me a video that is, they didn't want to step on our show, but tonight there's another podcast happening right after this one. It's called Let's Kiss, Keep It Simple. It's put out by Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole and PK 22. It's on his PK Boston. So I promised him that I would give that a plug. I'll drop that into the chat area so you guys can attend it later after you're done the show here. I ask everybody, any more questions for Doc or questions for Cytosine? Anybody?
Man, I wish I could say
And
that
that's a no. I know, Doom. It's really hard to keep up with the topic flow. Doc, I really want to thank you for coming on this show and giving us such great information on survival, bug out, preparedness, Jade Helm, maneuvers that are going to happen, and Slight as well. We hope that you can also join us in the morning and possibly give us some insider information if you can as you hear it.
I will.
Are you still there, Slight? Okay, excellent. Okay, so I don't know if anybody else had anything else to cover. Doom, is there anything you wanted to review or let us know?
Oh, just that I put up a 5-video series about CERN, about the Hoover Dam, a whole bunch of other stuff that'll kind of fit in with the iPet goat that I did, and also the logo that we saw flashed onto the Hoover Dam. The round globe with
Right.
the Twin Peaks, all that. It's all covered, and yeah, 5 videos I did today on all that. So.
Okay, excellent, good, and check out, of course, Professor Doom 1's channel. 03, he's going to be joining me in the morning to give me a little bit of backup as well, so I appreciate that. Of course, Brian, FPRN, we're not sure if they can broadcast through the Hangout in a different way, but we're going to see what we can do with that, and hopefully he'll join us as well so we can take calls after we hear about the hearing so to speak, but we may not be able to. So we'll play it as it goes, you guys. This was last minute that somebody actually said that they would pick up the horns, the bull by the horns, and go ahead and stream it for us. So I appreciate that, because I think we caught them with their pants down time. I don't think that they figured that anybody would be streaming the whole thing live. They thought they would just take a course and then later edit it and then put it out. But I don't think they knew that they were actually being streamed. So we're going to see if we can do it again and catch them immediately as to what they have to say in regard to the hearing. So I look forward to tomorrow. Anybody else got anything to add?
You know, I got to talk to Wolf here just, I think it was 2 days ago. And no, it was last week. It was beforehand. It was on Saturday. I told him, get with your lawyer and see if you can get an emergency subpoena on none other than the very custodian who was there supposedly that day, Mr. Rick Thorne. I want to hear his voice. I want to hear this guy who they allege was there that morning. I want to hear some testimony from him. Because I do believe that the voice that we heard of the Rick Thorne on the 911 tapes was none other than an officer that broadcasted on the police scanner feed about an hour and a half after that.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully he was able to get that subpoena in there.
Okay. Well, hopefully, yes, and hopefully the other people that they had originally subpoenaed are going to come forward and that they can take some kind of action to make them come to the hearing. Don't have an update on that information. Slight, do you know? Do you know if those who were subpoenaed will be
There were several subpoenas issued on top of the ones that originally were for the first section of the hearing. So there are multiple more.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't get into. I've already talked to him, and I know who was subpoenaed. I can't get into that because he asked me not to say. But if they don't show up like they did last time because of the interceding of Mr. Monty Frank, then we'll know that there's definitely something foul afoot here.
Right, but there's no secret on that. They announced it at the beginning of the CTN hearing, the first hearing, who didn't appear. So
Yeah.
point in fact is go back on our video and they'll name names and tell you who didn't appear and basically why they didn't appear. And of course it was due to the fact that Mr. Frank decided to take it upon himself to say they weren't needed for that hearing. So we'll see if we can proceed. I'd like to see the head of the janitorial position or supervisor. I'd like to hear his answers to the question. Yeah, and of course everybody else who didn't appear. So I look forward to this tomorrow. We're running out of time here, guys. Again, Professor Doom, thank you for joining us late.
Sorry.
FixedByDoc, no, it's fine. FixedByDoc, I hope that you can join us again if you have any further information. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Whenever you want me on, I'm here.
Oh, man.
Thank you very much.
FixedByDoc, I see what he said right there on the side. Yikes.
He's awesome. Zero, again, thanks for backing me up tonight, and Brian, you too, as far as, me falling offline. And FPRN, again, a big thank you to you. I look forward to joining us again when he can. So everybody, until tomorrow, we will talk then. And again, like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm going to have to take some time off during the summer. So I hope that you'll support Brian and Zero while they support for max resistance, because this resistance isn't just one person. It's you, it's me, it's all of us. So I'll close with that, and I want to thank everybody, of course, for tuning in, and thank you for the chat, and thank you, YouTube portion of the chat, and FPRN. All right, everybody, good night for now. Take care, and stay safe.
Much love, everyone.